Writing. Archangel Michael says, "Heaven is preparing the moment you have been waiting for." But listen carefully. The story does not end with hope alone. Because after heaven prepares the heart, heaven prepares the meeting. Right now, even though you cannot see it, God is arranging moments that seem completely ordinary. A random phone call. An unexpected invitation. A familiar place. A forgotten memory. None of these are accidents when they are guided by God's hand. Archangel Michael is saying, do not underestimate the small moments. I often hide miracles inside ordinary days. Your soulmate has entered a season where denial is becoming impossible. For too long, they ignored the quiet voice inside their spirit. For too long, fear spoke louder than faith. For too long, pride stood where love was supposed to stand. But heaven has been gently breaking every wall that kept them distant. Not through punishment, but through mercy. Not through anger, but through truth. Every lesson they have experienced has been preparing them for restoration. There were nights when they felt completely alone. They searched for peace in places that could never satisfy their soul. They tried to silence the emptiness with distractions. Yet every path eventually led back to the same realization. Something was missing. Someone was missing. That realization became the beginning of their healing. Archangel Michael has been fighting battles that your eyes have never seen. Doors that were meant to harm your future have quietly closed. People who carried wrong intentions have slowly disappeared. Delays that once frustrated you were actually protecting your destiny. This is why heaven keeps asking you to remain patient. Because the blessing arriving too early could have become another heartbreak. But the blessing arriving in God's perfect timing becomes lasting peace. Do not compare your journey with anyone else's. Some stories bloom quickly. Others are carefully shaped through seasons of waiting. Neither journey is forgotten by God. Every prayer, every tear, every act of faith has been recorded in heaven. Nothing has been wasted. Even the pain you believed had no purpose has become part of the testimony God is writing. Very soon, you may notice small signs that everything is changing. Conversations will feel different. Opportunities will appear unexpectedly. Old burdens will begin to lift. Your spirit will recognize a peace that has been absent for a long time. These are not coincidences. They are reminders that God is still moving, even when the process feels slow. And when the appointed day finally arrives, you will understand why heaven asked you to keep trusting when nothing made sense. Because every delay, every unanswered question, every difficult season, was quietly leading you toward a future that only God could prepare. The greatest miracles often arrive after the longest nights. So keep your heart open. Keep your faith alive. And remember, the author of your story has never abandoned the pages that seem unfinished. The next chapter is closer than you think. And heaven is all ready. But before that new chapter fully begins, there is one final lesson heaven wants you to understand. Miracles are not only seen in dramatic moments. Sometimes the greatest miracle is the quiet transformation taking place inside a heart. Your soulmate is no longer the same person they once were. The experiences they have walked through have changed them. The disappointments they carried have humbled them. The prayers they whispered in secret have drawn them closer to God. There was a time when they believed the story between you had already ended. They accepted the silence. They accepted the distance. But heaven never accepted the ending that fear tried to write. Archangel Michael has been standing between what was broken and what is about to be restored. Even when neither of you understood the reason for the separation, God never stopped working. Every setback became preparation. Every closed door became protection. Every unanswered prayer was leading to a better answer. Soon, you may begin to notice unexpected peace replacing the anxiety you once carried. The questions that kept you awake at night will slowly lose their power. The fear of "what if" will be replaced by confidence in God's perfect timing. This is how heaven prepares a soul before a breakthrough. Not by removing every challenge, but by strengthening your faith through every challenge. Your soulmate has also been learning the value of forgiveness. Not only forgiving others, but forgiving themselves. They have carried regret for choices they cannot change. They have replayed old conversations again and again. They have wondered if they waited too long. But God is reminding them that His grace is greater than every mistake. Nothing is impossible for the one who restores what seems lost. The pieces that appear scattered are still in His hands. The future that seems uncertain is already known by Him. That is why you must not allow discouragement to take root. Discouragement speaks from what is visible. Faith speaks from what God has promised. Very soon, a door that seemed permanently closed may quietly begin to open. A message may arrive when you least expect it. A meeting that once felt impossible may suddenly become reality. Not because of coincidence, but because heaven has been arranging every detail with perfect wisdom. When that moment comes, do not respond with fear. Do not let yesterday's pain control tomorrow's blessing. Walk forward with humility. Speak with honesty. Choose forgiveness over pride. Choose peace over fear. Because the love that God restores is meant to reflect His mercy, not human perfection. Remember, the waiting season is not the end of your story. It is the place where heaven prepares both hearts for something stronger than they could have imagined. And even now, as you hear these words, God is still writing. Archangel Michael is still protecting. The Holy Spirit is still leading. And your story is moving one step closer to the moment heaven has promised from the very beginning. But the story does not end there. Because there is something heaven wants you to remember before the next chapter unfolds. Not every blessing arrives with loud celebration. Sometimes the greatest answers from God enter your life quietly. Like the sunrise that slowly pushes away the darkness without making a sound. Your soulmate is entering a season they never believed they would reach. For so long, fear spoke louder than faith. Doubt whispered stronger than hope. Past wounds seemed bigger than tomorrow's promise. But God has been changing what no human eyes could see. Deep inside their heart, a new courage has been growing. The walls they built to protect themselves have begun to fall. The chains of regret are becoming weaker with every prayer they pray. Archangel Michael has been guarding both of your paths from unseen dangers. There were moments when one wrong decision could have delayed everything. Yet heaven stepped in with mercy. Doors closed that were never meant for you. People walked away because they were not part of God's final plan. Even the disappointments you cried over became part of your protection. One day, you will look back and realize that every delay carried hidden mercy. Every unanswered question carried unseen wisdom. Every lonely night was preparing you for a testimony that would strengthen others. Do not become weary now. You are closer than you realize. The enemy often increases confusion just before God reveals clarity. That is why peace is becoming your greatest weapon. Do not chase what God has already promised to bring at the right time. Rest in His presence. Trust His direction. Allow your faith to become stronger than your emotions. Your soulmate is also learning to surrender control. For the first time in a long while, they are placing their future into God's hands instead of trying to force their own plans. This surrender is opening doors that human effort could never unlock. Heaven responds to humble hearts. Very soon, you may witness conversations that once seemed impossible. Old misunderstandings may finally be replaced with truth. Tears of regret may become tears of gratitude. And both of you will understand that God's timing has always been better than your own. When restoration begins, do not rush it. Allow trust to grow one step at a time. Allow healing to happen without fear. Allow God's peace to become the foundation of every decision. Because relationships built on God's wisdom are not sustained by emotions alone. They are sustained by faith, by patience, by grace, and by love that reflects His heart. So keep believing. Keep praying. Keep walking faithfully. Because even now, while you cannot yet see every detail, heaven is moving. God is opening what no one can shut. Archangel Michael is standing watch over the path ahead. And with every passing day, the distance between the promise and its fulfillment is becoming smaller than ever before. And still, there is one more truth heaven wants to place gently upon your heart. The breakthrough you have been praying for will not arrive by accident. It will arrive at the exact moment God's perfect plan has been completed. There are conversations taking place that you cannot hear. There are prayers being answered that you cannot yet see. There are hearts being softened in ways only the Holy Spirit can accomplish. Your soulmate has entered a season of deep reflection. The things that once distracted them no longer bring lasting peace. The people they once depended on can no longer fill the emptiness within. God has been revealing that the greatest peace is found only in His presence. Archangel Michael has continued to stand as a guardian over this journey. Every unseen battle, every hidden temptation, every spiritual attack that tried to destroy your hope, has been met with heaven's protection. Even when you felt forgotten, you were never abandoned. Even when the road became lonely, God was walking beside you. One day, you will understand why certain prayers were delayed. If they had been answered too soon, neither of you would have been ready. Sometimes preparation is the greatest act of God's love. He does not simply answer prayers. He prepares hearts to receive the answer. That preparation has been happening even now. Your faith has become stronger through waiting. Your compassion has grown through pain. Your dependence on God has become deeper than ever before. Your soulmate has also been changing. They are beginning to value honesty over pride, humility over self-protection, faith over fear. The person who once hesitated may soon find the courage to speak what has remained hidden inside their heart. Do not be surprised if unexpected opportunities begin appearing before you. A chance meeting, a simple message, a familiar name, or a door that suddenly opens after years of silence. These moments are often how God quietly fulfills His promises. When they come, receive them with gratitude rather than fear. Leave the disappointments of yesterday in God's hands. Do not allow old wounds to speak louder than the new season He is creating. Forgive where forgiveness is needed. Show grace where grace is needed. Walk forward with wisdom, patience, and love. Because the future God is preparing is not built upon the mistakes of the past. It is built upon His mercy. Remember this always. No prayer offered with a sincere heart is ever wasted. No tear shed before God is ever ignored. No season of waiting lasts forever. The author of your story has never skipped a page. He has been writing every chapter with perfect wisdom. And now, the next chapter is drawing closer. Heaven is still working. Archangel Michael is still protecting. The Holy Spirit is still leading. And every step you take in faith is bringing you closer to the beautiful promise that God has been preparing since the very beginning. And even beyond this, there is a promise that heaven does not want you to miss. Some blessings arrive only after every hidden lesson has been learned. God is not only preparing a moment. He is preparing two hearts that will recognize His hand when the time comes. Your soulmate has begun to notice changes they cannot fully explain. The restlessness that once filled their days has slowly been replaced by a quiet longing for God's direction. The answers they searched for in the world could never satisfy the questions inside their soul. So they began to pray differently. Not asking God to simply change their circumstances, but asking Him to change their heart. That prayer has reached heaven. Archangel Michael has continued to guard the path that lies ahead. Every distraction that tried to pull you away from your purpose. Every voice that encouraged fear instead of faith. Every obstacle that appeared impossible has been limited by God's authority. Nothing can stand forever against what He has declared. You may not understand every delay. You may not understand every goodbye. But one day, you will see that every chapter had a purpose. The waiting strengthened your faith. The silence taught you patience. The disappointments taught you wisdom. And the tears taught you to depend on God more deeply than ever before. Your soulmate has also been discovering something powerful. True love cannot survive on emotions alone. It must be rooted in truth, in forgiveness, in humility, and above all, in God's presence. This understanding is changing them from the inside out. Very soon, the atmosphere around your life may begin to feel different. Doors that remained closed for years may begin to open without struggle. Opportunities may appear where you expected nothing. Peace may replace the anxiety that once followed you every day. These are often the quiet signs that heaven is moving. Do not ignore the small beginnings. Many of God's greatest miracles begin with one simple step of faith. One conversation. One unexpected opportunity. One act of obedience. Stay faithful in the little things. Continue praying even when you cannot yet see the answer. Continue trusting even when the path seems unclear. Because God is never late. He is always working according to His perfect wisdom. When the appointed moment arrives, you will not need to force what heaven has already prepared. The right doors will open. The right words will be spoken. The right people will appear. And the peace of God will confirm what fear never could. So keep your eyes on Him. Keep your heart open. Keep your faith alive. For even now, the pages of your story are still being written. Archangel Michael is still standing watch. The Holy Spirit is still guiding every step. And with each passing day, the promise that once seemed distant is drawing closer under the perfect timing of God's unfailing love. The greatest confirmation will not come through a sign in the sky. It will come through the peace that suddenly settles within your spirit. For so long, you have searched for answers outside yourself. You wondered when everything would finally make sense. You questioned why the journey seemed longer than expected. But heaven is saying, the waiting has not been empty. Every season has been preparing both of you for a meeting that will carry lasting purpose instead of temporary emotion. Your soulmate has begun noticing changes they cannot explain. Old desires no longer satisfy them. Conversations that once entertained them now feel empty. They are being drawn toward a deeper understanding of love. A love built on honesty, patience, and faith. There have been moments when they suddenly remembered your kindness. Small memories they once overlooked now return with incredible clarity. The way you encouraged them. The way you forgave. The way you cared without asking for anything in return. Those memories have become gentle reminders that something valuable was never truly lost. It was simply waiting for the right season to bloom again. Do not rush ahead of heaven's timing. A flower forced open too early cannot survive the storm. But a flower that blooms in its appointed season fills the entire garden with beauty. In the same way, your connection is being protected until both hearts are strong enough to carry the blessing without fear. There may still be one final obstacle. A conversation left unfinished. A misunderstanding waiting to be healed. Or a decision that requires courage. Do not be afraid of that moment. Sometimes restoration begins with one honest sentence. One humble apology. One unexpected act of grace. Heaven has already been softening hearts behind the scenes. Doors that looked permanently closed are quietly beginning to open. Opportunities you never expected are drawing closer with every passing day. Even now, while you are listening to these words, things are moving that you cannot yet see. One phone call. One unexpected message. One chance encounter. Could begin a chapter neither of you imagined possible. So keep your heart free from bitterness. Protect your peace. Continue walking with faith instead of fear. Because when the appointed moment finally arrives, you will look back on every delay, every tear, every unanswered prayer, and you will realize that heaven was never saying no. It was lovingly preparing both of you for a blessing that would arrive at exactly the right time. When both hearts were finally ready to receive it. And when that appointed moment finally comes, do not expect it to look exactly the way you imagined. Heaven often answers prayers in ways that surprise the human heart. Your soulmate may not arrive with perfect words. They may not know exactly how to explain everything they have been through. But you will notice something different. There will be sincerity where there was once confusion. Humility where there was once pride. Peace where there was once uncertainty. The walls they spent so long building around their heart are beginning to fall. Not because someone forced them, but because God has been healing places that no one else could reach. There were nights when they felt completely alone. Moments when they questioned every decision they had made. They asked heaven for wisdom, for forgiveness, for another chance to become the person they were always meant to be. Those prayers did not go unheard. Even while you were focusing on your own journey, heaven was working on theirs. Every lesson, every delay, every unexpected turn, has been shaping both of your stories into something far greater than either of you could have planned. This is why you must not compare your journey to anyone else's. Some stories bloom quickly. Others become beautiful because they were given time to grow deep roots. Your story is one of those rare journeys. The foundation being built now will be stronger than emotions alone. It will be built on trust, faith, understanding, and the willingness to choose each other every single day. Very soon, you may notice unusual confirmations. A familiar song playing at the perfect moment. A conversation that reminds you of them. A peaceful feeling that appears without explanation. Do not chase signs. Instead, stay close to God. When your heart is anchored in faith, you will never need to fear missing what heaven has prepared. Remember, miracles rarely announce themselves with loud voices. Sometimes they begin with a quiet whisper. A simple opportunity. A single step of obedience. And that small beginning can become the answer to years of prayer. So keep believing. Keep growing. Keep walking forward with confidence. Because heaven is not only preparing your soulmate. It is preparing you to receive every blessing without fear. Without doubt. And without looking back. The next chapter is closer than you realize. And when it begins, you will understand that every season of waiting had a purpose. Every tear carried meaning. And every prayer was heard from the very beginning. But before this chapter reaches its beautiful fulfillment, there is one final truth heaven wants you to carry in your heart. Never allow fear to speak louder than faith. There may still be moments when nothing seems to change. Days when the silence feels endless. Times when doubt quietly whispers, maybe this promise was never meant for me. When those moments come, remember everything heaven has already brought you through. You have survived battles that once seemed impossible. You have overcome seasons that nearly stole your hope. You are still standing. Not because of your own strength alone, but because God has carried you every step of the way. Your soulmate has also been changing in ways that cannot be seen with human eyes. The anger that once controlled them is fading. The confusion that once clouded their judgment is lifting. The fears that kept them running are slowly losing their grip. Every day, their heart is becoming softer. Every prayer is drawing them closer to the purpose God designed for their life. And every lesson they have learned is preparing them to love with greater wisdom than ever before. When the right moment arrives, neither of you will need to force what heaven has already aligned. Conversations will begin naturally. Understanding will replace misunderstanding. Peace will replace anxiety. And what once seemed impossible will suddenly feel like the most natural thing in the world. So continue living with gratitude. Celebrate the small victories. Keep your heart open. Keep your faith alive. Do not let temporary emotions cause permanent decisions. Because heaven's timing has never failed. The same God who began this story will also complete it. One day, you will smile as you remember this season of waiting. Not because it was easy, but because you will finally see how every delay protected you from what was not ready, and guided you toward what was always meant for you. Until that day arrives, walk in peace. Walk in faith. Walk with confidence. Because what heaven has written for your life, no fear, no delay, and no obstacle can permanently take away. The story is still unfolding, and the best pages have not yet been written. And as the final pieces begin to fall into place, there is something your heart needs to understand. Not every blessing arrives with immediate celebration. Sometimes, before heaven opens the greatest door, it asks you to release the weight you were never meant to carry. This is your moment to let go of old disappointments, past betrayals, and the questions that have kept you awake at night. Your future cannot fully bloom while your heart remains chained to yesterday. Your soulmate is learning this very lesson. They have been confronted with memories they tried to avoid. They have faced the consequences of choices they once believed were insignificant. Now, they understand that every decision carries the power to shape a destiny. That realization has changed them. No longer are they searching for temporary comfort. They are searching for something real. Something lasting. Something heaven itself has been preparing. And that preparation has not been easy. There have been tears no one witnessed. Prayers spoken through trembling voices. Moments when they wondered if forgiveness was still possible. Yet God's mercy continued reaching toward them. Little by little, hope returned. Their faith grew stronger. Their heart became more open than it had been in years. Meanwhile, you have been growing in ways you may not even recognize. The patience you once struggled to hold has become quiet strength. The pain that once defined your days has become wisdom. The loneliness that once felt overwhelming has taught you to trust God more deeply than ever before. Nothing has been wasted. Every trial has produced a greater purpose. Every delay has strengthened your foundation. And every unanswered question has been leading you toward an answer that is bigger than anything you imagined. So do not lose heart now. You are closer than you think. Heaven is not finished. The next conversation. The next unexpected encounter. The next answered prayer could become the turning point that changes everything. Stay faithful. Stay hopeful. Because the story God is writing is far more beautiful than the one fear tried to convince you would happen. Keep watching. Keep believing. For the greatest testimony often begins just before everything appears to be silent. And in that silence, heaven is already preparing your miracle.